Time travel, a concept that has fascinated humanity for centuries. While it remains the stuff of science fiction, there are individuals throughout history who have claimed to have actually experienced it. Today, we're diving into the top 10 most intriguing cases of alleged time travel. 10. Our journey begins in October 1979 with a middle-aged couple, Mr. and Mrs. Giannini, driving through the picturesque French countryside. As they approached their hotel in a small village, the landscape suddenly shifted. The modern roads disappeared, replaced by rutted dirt paths. Bewildered, they checked into their hotel, now an old-fashioned inn with antique furnishings and no electricity. They spent a restless night, feeling increasingly uneasy. The next morning, they awoke to find everything back to normal, as if nothing had happened. The couple maintained the truth of their experience until their dying day, leaving us to wonder about the nature of time itself. Number 9. On a hot July day in 1954, a well-dressed European man arrived at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. The man presented a passport from a country called Torrid. The customs officials were puzzled. No such country existed. The man insisted it did, located between France and Spain, where Andorra should be. Things got stranger. His company, listed in his documents, didn't exist. The hotel he claimed to have a reservation with had never heard of him. Even the bank listed on his checkbook denied any knowledge of him or his account. Detained for questioning, the man became increasingly distressed. He insisted he had been doing business with Japan for years and couldn't understand why no one recognized his country. Authorities decided to put him up in a hotel overnight, under guard, but in the morning he had vanished without a trace, along with all his documentation. 8. In March 2003, the SEC arrested a man named Andrew Carlson on suspicion of insider trading. Carlson had turned an initial investment of $800 into over $350 million in just 2 weeks. Carlson claimed he was a time traveler from the year 2056. According to him, he had used knowledge from the future to make his investments. Before authorities could investigate further, Carlson supposedly posted bail, set at $1 million, and vanished. No records of his existence prior to December 2002 were ever found. The story, first reported by Yahoo News, was later claimed to be fictional. However, the SEC never officially denied Carlson's arrest, leaving many to wonder about the truth behind this bizarre tale. 7. In November 2000, a person calling himself John Teeter began posting on online forums claiming to be a time traveler from 2036. Teeter's story was intricate and compelling. He said he was part of a military team sent back in time to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer needed to debug computer systems in the future. While many of Teeter's predictions didn't come to pass, his story captured the imagination of thousands. Some believe he may have been from an alternate timeline, or that his presence in our past changed the future he knew. Number 6. The story of Rudolph Fentz is one of the most intriguing cases of alleged time travel. On a hot summer evening in June 1950, a man dressed in distinctly Victorian-era clothing appeared suddenly in New York's Times Square, seeming confused and out of place. Before anyone could approach him, the man was struck by a car and killed instantly. The investigating officers were puzzled by his appearance and the items found on his person: a copper token for a beer worth 5 cents, a bill for the care of a horse and the washing of a carriage, business cards with the name Rudolph Fentz and an address on Fifth Avenue, and $70 in old banknotes. The mystery deepened when police tried to trace Fentz. The address on Fifth Avenue didn't exist, and no records of a Rudolph Fentz could be found. However, they eventually discovered a Rudolph Fentz Jr., who said his father had disappeared in 1876 at the age of 29. The implication was clear, but unbelievable. Had Rudolph Fentz somehow traveled through time from 1876 to 1950? Years later, the story was revealed to be a work of fiction by science fiction writer Jack Finney. However, the tale had been repeated so often as an urban legend that many still believe in the possibility that Fentz was a genuine time traveler. 5. The Philadelphia experiment is one of the most infamous alleged secret government projects involving time travel. According to the story, in 1943, the U.S. Navy conducted experiments to make ships invisible to enemy radar. However, something went terribly wrong. The USS Eldridge, the ship involved in the experiment, supposedly not only became invisible, but also teleported from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia, and even traveled through time. Enter Al Bielek. In 1988, Bielek came forward claiming he was part of the Philadelphia experiment. He said his birth name was Edward Cameron, and he and his brother Duncan were aboard the Eldridge during the experiment. Bielek's story took an even more fantastic turn when he claimed that he and his brother jumped off the ship during the experiment and found themselves transported to the year 2137. They allegedly spent 6 weeks in the future before being sent back to 1983. 4. On August 10, 1901, two academics, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, visited the Palace of Versailles. As they wandered the grounds, the women suddenly felt the atmosphere atmosphere change. They described seeing people in 18th century clothing and witnessing scenes that seemed to belong to a bygone era. Most notably, they claimed to have seen Marie Antoinette sketching on the grounds. Moberly and Jourdain's account, published in 1911 as An Adventure, caused a sensation. Skeptics argued they had stumbled upon a historical reenactment or simply misinterpreted normal events. However, the women maintained the truth of their experience until their deaths. 3. Sometimes, evidence of time travel appears in the most unexpected places. In this case, it was in the background of a Charlie Chaplin film premiere in 1928. Belfast filmmaker George Clark was watching bonus material on a Chaplin DVD when he noticed something odd. In footage from the premiere of The Circus, a woman walks by, apparently talking on a cell phone. Remember, this is 1928, more than 50 years before mobile phones were invented. Clark's discovery went viral, with millions viewing the footage on YouTube. Skeptics argued the woman was simply using an early hearing aid or was shielding her face from the camera. But for many, the image of a 1920s woman seemingly using 21st century technology was too perfect to dismiss. While it's highly unlikely that a time traveler would be so careless as to use a mobile phone in the past, the footage remains a tantalizing mystery. Håkan Nordqvist's story begins like a mundane home repair tale. In August 2006, the Swedish man was fixing a kitchen sink leak when he noticed something strange. The cupboard under the sink seemed much deeper than usual. Curious, Nordqvist claims he crawled in and found himself in a tunnel. Following it, he emerged into a version of his house that seemed slightly different. There, he encountered an older man who looked remarkably like himself. According to Nordqvist, this older man claimed to be his future self from the year 2042. They talked, compared tattoos, which matched, and even took a selfie video together before Nordqvist returned to 2006. Nordqvist's story gained attention when he shared the video of himself with his alleged future self. While many dismissed it as an elaborate hoax or marketing stunt, Nordqvist has maintained the truth of his experience. Our number one spot goes to one of the oldest and most mysterious potential cases of time travel or interdimensional travel in recorded history, the Green Children of Woolpit. In the 12th century, in the village of Woolpit, England, a strange event occurred that has puzzled historians for centuries. According to chronicles of the time, two children, a brother and sister, suddenly appeared on the edge of a field. Their appearance was striking, their skin was tinged green, and they spoke an unknown language. Eventually, the children learned to speak English. Their story was extraordinary. They claimed to come from a place called St. Martin's Land, where everything, including the people, was green. They described their homeland as a twilight realm, with no sun but perpetual dusk. One day, while herding their father's cattle, they heard a loud noise and suddenly found themselves in the field in Woolpit. The boy, unfortunately, became sickly and died soon after. The girl, however, adapted to her new life. She eventually married and, according to some accounts, took the name Agnes Barre. This case has been interpreted in many ways over the centuries. Some see it as a fairy tale or local legend. Others have proposed more rational explanations, such as the children being orphans with a dietary deficiency causing their green tinge. However, some researchers have proposed a more fantastic theory that the children were time travelers or even visitors from another dimension. While none of these cases provide irrefutable proof of time travel, they do force us to question the nature of time itself. So the next time you experience déjà vu or a strange sense of displacement, ask yourself, could you be slipping through time?